the next time the Chicago Sky and the Indiana Fever meet. And my question is, DiJonai Carrington, is that a threat? Are you threatening Sophie Cunningham? Are you threatening a player on the Indiana Fever? What are you doing? When you finally see the person who wants to protect women's sports. This was 8 minutes into the game. DiJonai Carrington finally gets her opportunity to go after the person who wants to protect women.
The game erupted into chaos just 8 minutes after the opening tip. Sophie Cunningham was knocked hard to the floor following a forceful collision with DiJonai Carrington, instantly silencing the arena. The whistle sounded, emotions boiled over, and Carrington was ultimately ejected. But that was only the beginning of the drama. Just minutes later, a social media post poured even more fuel onto the fire, transforming one heated moment on the court into one of the WNBA's biggest controversies. Suddenly, fans were left asking the same question: was this nothing more than an intense basketball play, or was there something deeper happening behind the scenes? And once again, the WNBA found itself at the center of another explosive debate.
No play for the ball, clotheslines Sophie Cunningham right in the face. Sophie Cunningham got up immediately, like, are you out your fucking mind? Michaela Timpson, quick, pulling her apart. And I know Sophie Cunningham wanted to get after. Sophie Cunningham wanted to get active, as they say. Sophie Cunningham wanted to get active right there, right then and there. Michaela Timpson pulled him apart. Like, nah, Sophie, you ain't getting ejected too. Let this clown beat it. The
confrontation exploded during a transition play. Sophie Cunningham was racing up the court when DiJonai Carrington delivered a powerful foul, sending her crashing onto the hardwood. The whistle immediately stopped the action, but it did nothing to calm the tension that followed. Cunningham quickly got back to her feet, clearly ready to confront Carrington, but her teammates stepped in and held her back. She understood that retaliating would only leave Indiana without another player, while Carrington had already been thrown out of the game for the foul. For the Fever, this felt like much more than another hard basketball play. It seemed like the newest chapter in a rivalry that had been building for some time. Every Indiana game now carries an extra level of intensity, and every heated exchange attracts attention far beyond the arena. With emotions already boiling, one collision had the potential to trigger something far bigger than a simple basketball altercation. The physical confrontation may have ended, but the mental battle was just getting started.
So DiJonai Carrington goes into the locker room and she tweets out, white privilege. DiJonai Carrington goes into the locker room and tweets out, white privilege. Then DiJonai Carrington tweets 823. Seems like a threat to me.
Once the chaos on the court finally settled down, DiJonai Carrington headed back to the locker room, where instead of letting the situation cool off, she appeared to take things even further. With her phone in hand, Carrington doubled down, posting a message centered around one explosive phrase: white privilege. The accusation was aimed directly at the Indiana Fever organization, and suddenly, the story had shifted from a hard basketball play to a much broader debate about race, accountability, and the culture surrounding the league. It was a fascinating and highly controversial turn. Rather than allowing the incident to remain about the foul itself, the conversation was being reframed as something systemic. Sophie Cunningham was no longer simply the player on the receiving end of a hard hit. She was being positioned as part of a much larger issue. Then came the mysterious post, 8-23, August 23rd. Was it simply a date? Or was it a warning about the next time these teams would meet? Whatever Carrington intended, the message immediately fueled speculation that this confrontation was far from finished. It created the impression that the next meeting could carry a completely different level of tension. And here's where the situation becomes even more complicated. Sophie Cunningham appeared to have the support of the crowd. As the broadcast pointed out, when she checked into the game, fans responded with a surprisingly loud cheer, even in Chicago. That reaction suggested that many spectators had already formed their own opinion about what happened. They saw the collision. They saw the aftermath. and they saw the confrontation that followed. That doesn't automatically make one side right and the other side wrong, but it does show how quickly public perception can shape a rivalry. The bigger issue now is accountability. When a physical incident on the court becomes intertwined with social media arguments, racial commentary, and threats of future confrontation, the situation becomes much larger than a single foul. We've seen similar debates throughout WNBA history, particularly when physical play involving high-profile players has crossed the line. The league has often faced criticism over whether certain incidents were punished consistently enough, especially when tensions surrounding Caitlin Clark and other major stars reached a boiling point. Carrington's 8-23 post therefore attracted attention far beyond social media. It raised questions about where the boundary exists between competitive trash talk, personal retaliation, and behavior that could further escalate tensions between players. And from a business perspective, the stakes are significant. The Indiana Fever have become one of the league's most closely watched teams, and players surrounding Caitlin Clark have become recognizable figures in their own right. If the league wants to protect the growth and marketability surrounding Indiana, it also has to make sure its players can compete without feeling that dangerous physical confrontations are being tolerated. Because when hard basketball turns into personal conflict, everyone pays the price. The players, the teams, the fans, and ultimately the league itself. Carrington's social media presence may generate enormous engagement, but controversy can have another side as well. Constantly escalating online and on-court confrontations can create a toxic atmosphere around the game. At some point, the question stops being about who won the argument online. The real question becomes whether the WNBA can keep the rivalry intense, the competition physical, and the entertainment value high, without allowing the situation to cross a line that damages the culture of the sport.
Stephanie White, looking at DiJonai, knowing exactly what it was about, but Stephanie White, why do I give a damn about your facial expression, Stephanie White? Weren't you the head coach of the Connecticut Sun 2 years ago while DiJonai poked her in the eye, and then you guys probably went into the locker room and kiki-keyed and ha-ha'd in the locker room after DiJonai poked her in the eye? Weren't you the head coach of the Connecticut Sun when Marina Mabrey hip-checked Caitlin Clark across the floor, and then you and Marina Mabrey probably went to the locker room and hee-heed and ha-ha'd?
Then there's the coaching staff, and Stephanie White's reaction is coming under just as much scrutiny. She watched the confrontation unfold with an obvious look of concern, but critics aren't impressed by facial expressions. They want action. The argument is simple. Why should anyone care about a concerned look if the same coach has been on the sidelines during previous controversial incidents? White was Indiana's coach when DiJonai Carrington was involved in an incident that left one of her players dealing with an eye poke. She was also there when Marina Mabrey delivered a hard hip check that sent Caitlin Clark across the floor. That raises an uncomfortable question about the Fever's leadership. Is Stephanie White doing enough to protect her players and establish boundaries? If Indiana's coaching staff can ensure that players are treated fairly and that dangerous conduct is properly addressed, then fans have every right to question the team's approach. But the biggest moment in this entire saga may not happen on the court at all. It could come from the WNBA league office. Will the league take disciplinary action against DiJonai Carrington if her conduct is determined to have crossed the line? Will the controversial August 23rd post lead to a fine or some other punishment? And if the league chooses to do nothing, will critics argue that it is allowing tensions to escalate instead of shutting them down? That's the larger issue facing the WNBA right now. Too often, the basketball itself gets buried beneath personal rivalries, social media battles, and escalating controversy. From this perspective, the Cunningham-Carrington situation has become much bigger than one physical play. What began as a hard collision has evolved into a war of words, competing narratives, and speculation about what could happen when the teams meet again. Sophie Cunningham has already shown that she can handle pressure, both physically and verbally. Whether you agree with her or not, she has continued to compete through the noise and hasn't allowed the controversy to define her. Now, everyone is watching August 23rd. Will the next meeting simply be another intense basketball game, or will the unresolved tension spill over again? And more importantly, can the league, the teams, and the players keep the rivalry competitive without allowing it to cross the line into something dangerous? That's the question everyone should be asking. What do you think? Is the WNBA doing enough to protect players like Sophie Cunningham, or should the league be taking stronger action when these situations escalate? Let me know your thoughts in the comments.